Welcome to another edition of Coffee with Coaches. I'm Scott Ellis, and I'm joined by fifth-year head coach Ashley Waters. And speaking of that, Coach, in a couple of months, it would be the fifth-year anniversary of when you were hired. How exciting has your tenure been at BU?
Yeah, it's been amazing. I always tell people it's been a Cinderella story. I don't know if it's supposed to start this good, which is kind of scary, but no, it's been an incredible ride. I can honestly still remember the day I got the email from BU about even considering applying, and to think how much that's changed my life in the last 5 years is amazing.
And the show is called Coffee with Coaches. Do you drink coffee? What do you like to drink in the mornings?
So not a big fan of coffee. I've never tried it. And I think for those who know me closest might say that's probably a better idea to not give me more caffeine. But I do love a cup of tea. So I think through the colder months, I'll get up and I'll make a cup of tea in the morning. But I'm trying to keep these teeth nice and white as long as I can, Scotty. So no coffee for me. And
any particular flavors?
Honestly, I just like Earl Grey. My mom grew up drinking coffee and tea, kind of go back and forth. But I remember, I don't know, there was something about the smell of the tea that I just like loved. And I've kind of taken that throughout my life. And that's been my hot beverage.
Now, how has the adjustment been during this pandemic with the team? And how are the team's spirits right now?
Yeah, it's hard. I feel like, we had the best start in the history of the program. And I think when you start out that strong and you feel like there's such chemistry, and I think it's really difficult to wonder what could have been. There were really special parts of this year, but we obviously saw, a brilliant team chemistry, a group of kids that just love the game. So to have to halt that and walk away was really difficult. And I think for them, they felt the same way. It's really tough to, have to say goodbye to two seniors, or, in California, to get on a flight and half the team's not on it because they're staying in Cali. It was just a very odd time for us, but, we've stayed in touch. We're doing Zoom calls every week, and we're getting, kind of ready to celebrate the team and the seniors this week. And I think next week we got a big trivia week coming up. So we're trying to make little things that they're excited about and want to get into, but it's certainly, upsetting and depressing on days, and other days it's okay.
Right. And speaking of the seniors, this weekend, upcoming weekend, would have been their senior day. And your team was in a unique situation that you pretty much knew the rug was going to be pulled under you, unlike some other teams where their seasons were just canceled. So Can you look back and tell us how that final game went? You played against Long Beach State, and what did you tell the team? And even though it wasn't how they wanted their season to end for your seniors, how was it that at least they got a little recognition knowing that it was their final game this season?
Yeah, I will always have a very special place in my heart for Cal State Fullerton for what they did. And so at 6 a.m. that morning, we had got a call from Drew, and I was in California, so obviously that time difference. And he had let us know that obviously the spring sports had been canceled. We were literally, they were in uniform. We were ready to go, and I'm having this conversation. We had an early morning game. So we had a private room. I went in there with everybody. I explained what the situation was. I had been pretty transparent about things that were happening. So I think for them, it was, of course, they had hope, but they knew that this potentially could be an issue. So of course, I gave them the message that the spring sports have been canceled, and there was tears and crying, and I think it was really tough in those emotions. But within a couple minutes to say they're going to let us play one more game today, and we have the opportunity to go on the field for Lizzie and Kayleigh, and that was almost like the whole emotion changed. You know what I mean? Like they all of a sudden had something that day that was bigger than them, something that was really important for two kids on our program and our team. And, I think that's what made it really special. They wanted to play for them. So we designed the day around Kayleigh and Lizzie. I told them whatever they wanted to do, they were going to do. It was just going to be a day that they could remember. So Lizzie instantly said, I'm going to play shortstop. So if you don't, Lizzie is a very funny kid, but she legitimately can play defense. She actually is a really good defender. So it was really funny though. I put them both in the hitting lineup. They both wanted to hit. They both wanted to pitch. So Kayleigh started the game, did really well. And then I brought Lizzie in. And then Lizzie's outing was a little bit tough. The umpire was squeezing her quite a bit, which it was raining. It was terrible weather, but it was good. I got to transition her to shortstop. Kayleigh actually went to right field, and then Emily Gant came in to close it out. But yeah, they played the full game, and Kayleigh's first at bat, she hit a shot down the first baseline. The first baseman snagged it, but it was special. It was cool just to see them, in their elements doing their thing. But prior to the game, I had let the people in the press box know that it was going to be our final game. And at that point, Long Beach and Fullerton were not in the same position. So I was just kind of had a conversation with them, let them know what was going on. And Cal State Fullerton left the field, went and got them flowers. They put their whole entire team in the stands because we couldn't have fans. No one was allowed to be there. And they sat behind home plate. And when they called our kids' names, they were clapping, they were applauding. And when they honored the two seniors and gave them flowers, I looked at the Fullerton kids and they were in tears. Like they were crying for kids that they didn't even know. And I think maybe because the game is so important to so many and it's so special that, when you can relate to that and you feel like, and maybe it was the seniors that were that emotional, that knew maybe it was coming down the pipe for them or what it was, but it was just such raw emotion and it was silent because there was no one there. So it was just like, it was really wild, but the coach came over, gave them flowers. They honored them over the loudspeaker, which was really special. And we actually had a rain delay in the game. And when they had the rain delay, the Fullerton players came out to tarp and I saw them come over and hug our kids. And it just, I don't know, it was something about it that was just so special. And I think for me to see the bigger picture of just how much these athletes care about one another or how much they feel for one another, that's something that I'll always, keep with me. And I just, for as bad as this is, that was really, really special.
And then can you just talk a little bit more about Lizzie and Kayleigh and what they meant to you and to the program? I mean, they made 3 straight Patriot League championships, made to NCAAs twice. I know there was great aspirations to three-peat this year, but can you just talk about what they meant to you in the program?
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't find 2 kids who work as hard. They showed up every single day, regardless of playing time, regardless of innings pitched, and they gave you whatever they had. I thought they were just tremendous leaders. They were both captains this year, along with Marina. They have, for anyone who knows them or has like an inside scoop on our program, there is no Kayleigh without Lizzie, and there is no Lizzie without Kayleigh. And I think that was from like the get-go. Those 2 have just been connected at the hip, and it's one of those relationships where it's almost family. Where you'll hear them yelling at each other and then you'll hear them laughing with each other and then you hear them yelling. It's just like a bond that's like no other. So it was pretty special to watch them from year 1, obviously all the way until their senior year, just how they've developed and grown, but they've done it together. Their friendship has never wavered. And I think that's the part that will always stand out the most to me. They were in each other's corner and they really wanted the other one to do well. So I think there's been some pretty special moments, but in terms of their work ethic and their selflessness and what they meant to our program, it's indescribable. I think that I'm always going to look back and have a really special place in my heart for both of them, for what they contributed on a daily basis in the practice setting. Lizzie obviously has the win against Oklahoma, which, I mean, Lizzie's in the history books, like for life, so I think it's pretty incredible, that she got to go in and close out that game, get the win against the number 1 team in the country. And I think that's a memory that, she'll take with her forever. And then obviously Kayleigh had a big first year for us. I think she had 10 plus wins that first year. As she went, she developed a changeup. She was one of those kids that she just competed on a daily basis and it didn't matter what situation. I'd put her into hit, she'd swing as hard as possible. I'd put her at second base, she'd lay out for a ball. I mean, she was just that kid that she never stopped. She gave you everything she had. So, in terms of who they are and what they're going to be, I think BU couldn't have been a better fit for their academics and I think for them to grow as people. And I think the future, you're going to hear both their names. Lizzie wants to run for president, and I actually genuinely believe she might actually win. So she definitely has my vote in the future. And then obviously Kayleigh's just an incredibly smart kid. She did excellent in school. They both did. So I think the future is really bright, and I think that they set a wonderful tone in our program of, we come here, we work hard, put our heads down, you just grind every single day, whether it's academically, athletically. And they live by that and they showed it to everyone else.
And unfortunately, no one around campus really got to see the team play this year. Just briefly, can you just talk how the team was progressing? And obviously, you had a 8-0 start, beat a ACC team in Virginia. Can you just talk about how the team was looking in your eyes?
Yeah, after, you never know. So I think people always ask like, oh, how are you guys going to be this year? And it's so funny. And it's not that I'm pessimistic. It's just that in softball, it's so interesting. Like you practice inside for a 2.5 week span, 3 weeks, maybe at max. And you see them against each other, right? So in my mind, there's some days where I'm like, oh my God, the pitchers need work. Or I'm like, oh my God, is our offense that good? Right? So you go back and forth and you play these mind games. So I really didn't know weekend one. So to come out of weekend one, 5-0, I think that's when I kind of was like, okay, like some of the things that we were seeing were legitimate, so it wasn't that the pitchers weren't doing well. It was that, we had some kids that could really hit, and vice versa. So, I think for us that really set a tone. And, from that point on, it's incredible. When you win, you believe you should win. And if you lose, you're like, oh, we're just, I don't know. It's easy to get in patterns where it's like, if you win, you want to keep winning. If you lose, you might just keep losing, So I think for us, just setting that bar so high weekend one, they knew. They were like, okay, no, we're good. Like, we're good. We should win every single game that we play, right? And they weren't looking ahead. They were looking at each game, like one at a time, which I feel like sometimes our program looks too far ahead. I can't be looking at Lehigh or Bucknell weekend one. Who cares? Preseason's preseason. I think this was the part that was really special. They focused on the moments they were in when they were in it. And I think that made us, really strong, really good. We had some incredible freshmen step in, play major roles. Allie, I thought, started on fire. You have a mix with obviously Emily Gant, who's, Allie and Emily this year, I think for them, they both looked how they were supposed to look and they could help each other, right? So it's Allie's obviously more down in the zone. Emily's a little bit more up in the zone, but for them, I've always wanted them to work together to figure out how do we take games, how do we win games together? And I felt like this year they had that perfect balance, right? And they knew the roles that they were in. Lizzie Avery was able to jump in as a freshman and get some closes, which was cool. But yeah, I think it was like a fresh new take on BU softball. And I've had some really special teams here and really special kids, but this team by far, chemistry-wise, was my favorite. Just, they had an absolute ball doing what they do, but they also wanted each other to succeed. And I think that is like the most powerful thing in the world, when you want the kid ahead of you to do well, So when I had AJ and Kate Coker, it was if they were one and the same, right? So it was just really cool to watch the whole entire lineup and to see people really want others to do well. That was, I think this team would have done really well in conference and potentially beyond.
Right. And then one final question. One of the cool stories I've been seeing during this time period is how large or how big pet adoptions have been skyrocketing across the country. And for those who follow you on social media, you obviously have 2 wonderful dogs and Beans and Pickles. And so I wanted to ask you, having those 2 pets in your life, especially during this time period of social distancing, can you just talk about what they've meant to you?
Yeah, Scott, you're gonna make me cry. You know how much they mean to me. It's Bean and Pickles are my world, and I've always been an animal lover. I think it's just a trait that runs in our family. I think when we grew up with dogs, I've always had dogs. So, I think when I had the opportunity to get Bean, it was actually, I confirmed getting her on my way to my first Patriot League championship. So when we won, it was almost like the most brilliant feeling in the world. I won. And then, literally like a couple weeks later, I had little Bean. So, it's really special to have animals. I think they have such a loyalty and unwavering love. And, I think in a world, it breaks my heart to think that some people are going through this alone or by themselves or aren't having interaction. So, I hope people have connections, but to have them every single day and to wake up and go to sleep with, and, my favorite time of day is twice a day. I go for, whatever it is, a mile or 2 walk with them. And I think that's the part that's really kind of kept me going and made me feel really good about just getting outside and being with them and seeing their joy. So, I think they think I got fired. They're pretty happy about it. I think Pickles is a fan of softball season. Bean could do without because she loses attention for me. Bean needs the attention. So, but yeah, I love seeing the stories of hope and seeing all the pets adopted. And, I just hope that, when things go back to normal, people keep those pets and they continue to love them how they're loving them right now. So Mariah Conley's trying to get one. So she's the next to adopt. So I'm excited for her.
Right. Well, thank you very much for joining me, Coach Waters, and enjoy that next walk with Bean and Pickles.
I appreciate it, Scotty. Thank you.